The air between us was thick with unspoken words, the weight of our shared past pressing down like a storm cloud, heavy and inescapable. "You don't have to decide tonight," he replied. "Just let me stay. Let me prove to you that I mean it this time." I looked away, my heart warring with my head. This was a mistake. I knew it was a mistake. But the way he looked at me, the way he spoke, it was almost enough to make me believe him. "Fine," I said, the words slipping out before I could stop it. "One night. That's all." A small, relieved smile spread across his lips. "Thank you," as he leaned back, giving me the space I so desperately needed. I couldn't help but wonder if I was making a mistake. But for tonight, I would let him stay. Tomorrow, I would deal with the consequences. The room was quiet, save for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Taehyung sat across from me, his presence as overwhelming as ever. I wanted to retreat, to protect myself, but something in his expression, raw, unguarded, made it impossible to walk away. "You should get some rest," I said finally, breaking the silence. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, strained and unsure. "I'm not tired," he replied softly. His gaze remained fixed on me, unwavering. I stood abruptly, the tension too much to bear. "I'll sleep on the sofa." "You can take the bed," Taehyung frowned, rising to his feet. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do," I snapped, more forcefully than I intended. "I'm not sharing a bed with you." "I didn't ask you to," he said, his tone calm, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of hurt. "But I don't want you to be uncomfortable either," I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. "This whole situation is uncomfortable, Taehyung." "Then let me make it easier," he said, taking a step closer. "I'll stay on the sofa. You take the bed." I shook my head. "No. This isn't." Before I could finish, he closed the distance between us, his hands coming to rest lightly on my shoulders. The warmth of his touch seeped through my shirt, grounding and disarming all at once. "Jungkook," he said, his voice low and steady. "I'm not trying to make this harder for you. I just want to be here. That's all." I looked up at him, my resolve wavering. "Why can't you just leave me alone?" "Because I can't," he said simply. "I've tried, and I can't." His words broke something in me, and before I could stop myself, I was speaking. "You hurt me, Taehyung," I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of my emotions. "You left me when I needed you most. How am I supposed to trust you again?" His grip on my shoulders tightened, just slightly, and his gaze softened. "I know I hurt you. I'll never forgive myself for that. But I'm here now, and I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." The sincerity in his voice, the vulnerability in his eyes, it was too much. I turned away, pulling out of his grasp as I wrapped my arms around myself. "I don't know if I can give you the chance," I admitted. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." Taehyung stepped closer, his presence warm and steady behind me. "You don't have to decide tonight," he said gently. "But please, let me stay. Let me show you that I mean it." I closed my eyes, my heart warring with my head. Every instinct told me to push him away, to protect myself. But a small, stubborn part of me, a part I thought I'd buried, wanted to believe him. "Fine," I said finally, the word barely audible. "You can stay." His exhale of relief was almost imperceptible, but I felt it. "Thank you," he said softly. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked over to the sofa, grabbing a spare blanket from the armrest. "You take the bed," I said, my tone firm. "I'll sleep here." Taehyung hesitated but didn't argue. "If that's what you want." As he settled into the bed and I curled up on the sofa, the distance between us felt both too much and not enough. For us, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling as memories of our past played like a movie reel in my mind. The love, the laughter, the pain, it was all still there, haunting and undeniable. When I finally drifted off, it was to the sound of Taehyung's steady breathing, a reminder that, for better or worse, he was here. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains, warming my skin and pulling me from sleep. I sat up, blinking groggily, only to find Taehyung already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed. He looked up as I moved, his gaze meeting mine with a mixture of hope and hesitation. "Good morning," he said, his voice soft. I didn't reply right away, the weight of the night before settling over me like a heavy blanket. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But for now, I let the moment be, unsure of where we would go from here. The air between us was thick with unspoken words as the golden hues of morning spilled into the room. Taehyung's figure, sitting at the edge of the bed, seemed impossibly calm, though his eyes betrayed the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Did you sleep?" I asked, my voice rough with sleep and uncertainty. "A little," he replied, offering a small, almost shy smile. "You barely," I admitted, running a hand through my hair. The tension from the night before lingered, an invisible thread tethering us to everything left unsaid. Taehyung shifted, resting his forearms on his knees. "I didn't want to wake you. You looked peaceful," I scoffed softly, shaking my head. "That's ironic, considering you're the reason I couldn't sleep in the first place," he winced, a flicker of regret crossing his features. "I know. I don't deserve your forgiveness, Jungkook. But I meant what I said. I'll do whatever it takes." The sincerity in his voice was disarming, and for a moment, I was tempted to believe him. But the scars he'd left were still too fresh, too raw. "I don't know if that's enough," I said quietly, my gaze dropping to my hands. Taehyung stood then, crossing the small space between us with deliberate steps. He crouched down in front of me, his face level with mine. "I'm not asking you to decide now," he said softly, his eyes searching mine. "But I'll prove it to you, even if it takes the rest of my life." His words hung in the air, heavy with promise and pain. I wanted to believe him, to trust that this time would be different. But fear held me back, its grip relentless. "You should leave," I said finally, my voice trembling despite my resolve. Taehyung's expression faltered, but he didn't argue. "If that's what you want, it's not about what I want," I said, standing abruptly. "It's about what I need." He nodded slowly, rising to his feet. "I understand." As he gathered his things, the silence between us was deafening. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to stop him, to take the chance I was too afraid to risk. But I stayed rooted in place, my arms wrapped tightly around myself. At the door, Taehyung paused, glancing back at me with a bittersweet smile. "I'll give you space, Jungkook. But I'm not giving up," and with that, he was gone, leaving me alone with the echo of his words and the ache of his absence. For the first time in years, I wasn't sure if I was mourning what we'd lost, or hoping for what could still be. The morning after that tense night felt like the calm before a storm. Taehyung was in the kitchen, frying eggs and humming a soft tune. I watched him from the sofa, his broad shoulders relaxed and his movements purposeful. It was a stark contrast to the raw vulnerability he had shown the night before. "Why are you cooking?" I asked, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. "You didn't have to." He glanced over his shoulder, a small smile tugging at his lips. "It's the least I can do. Besides, I've missed this." "Miss what, Liz?" he said simply, gesturing between us. "Waking up in the same space as you." I bit my lip, unsure of how to respond. His words were disarming, making me feel things I wasn't ready to process. "You're acting like we've figured everything out," I muttered. "No," he said, plating the eggs and bringing them over to the table. "But I'm trying." I joined him reluctantly, the tension between us still palpable but less suffocating than the night before. As we ate in relative silence, a thought struck me. "Wait," I said, narrowing my eyes. "Isn't today your birthday?" Taehyung blinked, clearly caught off guard. "You remembered?" I frowned. "Of course, I did." "Why didn't you say anything?" He shrugged, a sheepish expression crossing his face. "It didn't seem important." "That's ridiculous," I said, standing abruptly. "Your birthday is important, Taehyung." He watched me, a flicker of amusement dancing in his eyes. "And what are you going to do about it?" I paused, my cheeks heating under his playful gaze. "You'll see." The rest of the day passed in a blur. I made calls, arranged deliveries, and somehow managed to coordinate a surprise party with the help of our mutual friends. It wasn't extravagant, just a small gathering at a nearby lounge, but I wanted to give him something special. By the time evening rolled around, Taehyung still seemed oblivious to my plans. He spent the afternoon reading on the couch, looking far too comfortable for someone whose birthday was about to be celebrated in style. "Get dressed," I said abruptly, walking into the living room with a bag in hand. He looked up, raising an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I said so," I replied, tossing the bag at him. "And wear this." Taehyung opened the bag, pulling out a sleek black suit that fit his style perfectly. He glanced at me, his lips twitching in amusement. "Is this your way of spoiling me?" "Just get ready," I huffed, turning away to hide my flustered expression. The lounge was dimly lit, the soft glow of fairy lights creating a cozy atmosphere. Friends and familiar faces milled about, chatting and laughing as they waited for the birthday boy to arrive. When Taehyung walked in, his eyes widened in surprise. The suit hugged his frame perfectly, and his presence was magnetic, drawing everyone's attention. "What is this?" he asked, his voice a mix of confusion and awe. "Happy birthday," I said, stepping forward with a small smile. "You did all this?" he asked, his gaze sweeping over the room before landing on me. I shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "I had help." Taehyung's expression softened, and for a moment, the world around us faded. "Thank you, Jungkook." "Don't thank me yet," I said, grabbing his hand and leading him toward the center of the room. As the music shifted to a slow melody, someone handed Taehyung a microphone. "Speech," someone called out, and the crowd cheered in agreement. Taehyung laughed, shaking his head as he raised the microphone. "I'm not great at speeches, but thank you to all of you, and especially to Jungkook, for reminding me what it feels like to be cared for. This means more to me than I can put into words." The room erupted in applause, and I felt my cheeks flush under the weight of his gaze. Later, as the party wound down and the guests trickled out, Taehyung and I found ourselves alone on the small balcony. The city lights stretched out before us, casting a warm glow over the night. "You didn't have to do all this," he said, leaning against the railing. I wanted to, I replied, fiddling with the hem of my shirt. You deserved it. Taehyung turned to face me, his expression unreadable. You're incredible, you know that, don't? I said, my voice wavering. Don't say things like that. Why not? He asked, stepping closer. Because it makes it harder to hate you, I admitted, my chest tightening. He cupped my face, his touch gentle but firm. I don't want you to hate me, Jungkook. I want you to love me again. Before I could respond, his lips captured mine in a kiss that was both tender and possessive. It left no room for doubt, no space for hesitation. When we finally broke apart, my breathing was ragged, and my heart felt like it might burst. Happy birthday, I whispered, my forehead resting against his. Best birthday ever, he murmured, his voice low and filled with emotion. And as the night stretched on, with Taehyung holding me close, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, this time, he wouldn't let me go.